I want to make my message feel more like me, weird, but maybe not weird, and more distinct. But I also want to repel the right people and attract the people for me without repelling them. That is a session question I'm going to be having with someone this week who booked a messaging session. And it's something I want to talk about here on the podcast because this is one of the beautiful reasons to get into your bold core legacy message. If you didn't catch those episodes, the last 4 episodes were a series on your legacy message pulled straight from my program, Energy of Your Message. The mentorship where we work together for 6 months developing your boldest core message and bring that out in everything that you create. If you have an online business, if you're writing a book to go with that business, you're launching a podcast, you're creating a new program, you're marketing that program, you're rethinking the way that you write to your email list. And you're at that point where, yes, you know how to sell something, you know how to reach people, you've done it before, you've filled a program, or you have a service that has sold successfully. And yet, there is a part of you that feels like it is beyond time to break free from anything that has been limiting you and your voice and your expression. And now is the best time to do so because it's needed now more than ever, where we see a lot of people being a little less brave for very good reasons because of how massive things have gotten online, where there are a lot more eyeballs, there are a lot more critics, and there is a lot of movement into different spaces where we're seeing a lot of people talk about all the shoulds, the should nots of what you should do when it comes to marketing yourself, the rules, the standards, the trends, all of those things. And it has people feeling a little bit iffy on what's the right move to make, what does work. This is saying to do this, but then this contradicted that. And we have a lot of really awesome creative minds feeling stifled. And that's where the energy of your message comes in, because rather than putting yourself into this box of what works, will people like it? Will they like me? Are people going to, be interested in this if I do this? And we hyper focus on these imaginary people before we've even really connected with where the message is going now and where it's calling you to speak and express yourself. Then instead of doing that in energy of your message, you're coming back to what it is that you came here to say, how you came here to say it, and where you're being called to go next to do it, where you know it's a calling in a way. In other words, where it's like it doesn't leave you. You feel it when you speak freely, when you aren't attached to an outcome. That's why I have said to people in sessions, if there was no outcome required, you didn't have to make this into something that worked or sold, how would you talk about it? And that's where people light up. Here's the thing though, that does quote unquote work. It takes trust and it takes going all in and being willing to do it, and also being aware of all of the things that maybe get in the way as you do so. Because to really get into a bold, big message, it requires you as the messenger to be big and bold within yourself, to have that belief, to feel clear, to have direction, to have discernment, to have boundaries, to recognize old voices that come up and try to limit you. So that's where we get into the energy of it all, because how you show up is often how you connect to and speak on the message, and that is how it resonates and lands with other people. So I want to talk about this really awesome question that I'm really excited to dive into this week with this specific person, and to say these are the things that we do in a messaging session where you come to get clarity in a way that just does not come from trying to Google it, right? It doesn't come from trying to follow a template. It doesn't come from trying to follow a list of do this and this and this. And it doesn't really come from asking, sorry, ChatGPT, because maybe there are uses for using that as a tool, but you're not going to really be able to connect with a version of yourself and your voice and your self-expression where you feel challenged, where you see the point of view that maybe you're reluctant to see, but we get together, we get into the energy of it, we get into the truth of it. It's fun, it's creative, it's quirky, it's clear, it's direct, it's honest. But I'm not going to say I sit here and I'm a tough coach and I give you the hard talks and I'm going to not give it to you softly. I'm going to be honest and clear and direct with you. But the truth is, it's not about what I have to say. It's not about my advice. It's not about me saying, these are the right things for you to be doing. You need to follow this because this example worked for me. That is not the truth. Honestly, to be very clear, is that you have a unique energy system. You have a unique way of thinking. You have a unique history. There is a lot of context to what you do. There is a lot of context to your experience, that it is not about me knowing what's best for you. The session is about a connection to help you align with what's true for you, and you'll feel it. You'll know it. It's about what's coming through for you always. That's why when I do any copy critiques for people, I say every word I use is for you. It's coming through to me, but for you. And a lot of times I know that's completely true. One, because sometimes it will pop right out of my head after I do a session like that. I won't fully remember everything that was said. And it is even wording that I would never have thought of using. It's not in my voice. And so this, I think, is a really essential step for those of you who are like, I know it's time. I know it's time where I'm really bold. I'm not afraid to stand out. And there are reasons that we get afraid to stand out. I've told stories in the past of when I started to gain traction online and to get visibility. And I was in a relationship that was getting visibility as well at that time. And I was working for a company that I do not associate with that at all anymore. And I got really nervous. I was talking to my mentor about it, the visibility jitters that came up. But honestly, I wasn't ready to hold what was coming with that visibility, not where I was at that time with my own boundaries, which I needed to do a lot of work on, with my discernment, with my deservingness, with me realizing what I want and holding that standard and being willing to hold it, even if it meant a no or someone walking away or me walking away. Now, that's very different. So a lot of what I did to get to where I am now was not what I did externally. It wasn't I did this step every single day that resulted in this specific external outcome. It was very internal in order to feel ready to hold the next chapter that I was calling in. And so when you're at this place of, I want to make my message feel like me, the aspects of you, your you-ness, as I would say, an energy of your message, I want to make my message feel like me. Then there is an experience that will likely start to appear of both releasing and receiving. And this is something that I do have a course you can follow on your own called Will My Messaging Work? Depends. Can you own it? And that is on the website or at sarahlucille.com/will it work. It is you doing it at your own pace, but there are specific exercises in there and a journal, an energy of your message journal you can use with a lot of prompts to do this type of work. Inner work. This is the inner messaging work. And it's not talked about very often, but if you are really moving into that space of, I have something to say and I want to do so truthfully, honestly, and as me, then what will happen is, hell yes, you can do it. Absolutely. And are you willing to then go through the experience of becoming? And becoming is not really becoming someone new. It is remembering who you are. And I talk about that in Energy of Your Message. Remembering who you are, showing up when you have something to write, when you record a podcast, when you talk with a potential client, when you talk with investors, you are holding the energy of, I know who I am. Not, I think I know who I need to be for them. I think I need to know, I think I know what I need to say to please them so that they'll like this, that they'll open this, that they'll respond to this, that they'll be hooked, right? I mean, that's the approach in a lot of marketing, is how do we get people to take action? And if you're saying, I'm moving into this higher level in my life, in my business, this CEO energy, this I can really own it, what I say I want, then it is not necessarily about all the actions you're meant to take and everything you're meant to do by themselves, because a lot of things that you will be doing are going to require a way that you hold yourself to match it. So that's alignment, right? You're getting into alignment. It's not, I'm doing all the right things. It is, how are you going to align? And I will say, this is why I work with people through the 6-month period. It isn't something you can always predict. One, you start with the declaration, like this person here. I want my message to feel more like me. I want to repel the wrong kind of people, and I want to attract the right kind of people. Awesome. Love it. Dig it. I want my message to feel more like me. You've made a declaration. Now, can you own it? Yes, absolutely. I know you can. But it's really allowing for what's about to come next. And this is where I'm going to be completely honest. People panic and they pull out. They go back to what feels safe. They go back to what feels certain, even though nothing is certain. They go back to what feels familiar, what maybe provided a sense of security, even though it didn't feel right. There's a reason you feel called to take this next step. You may have a business model that kind of worked to a point, but you find yourself putting out a lot of fires. You are less inspired when you're writing to your list. You are less excited about launches. You're not feeling very proud when you talk about what you're doing, because there's a part of you that's like, hey, we've been needing to move up for a while, right? Like, we know we're supposed to be doing this next big thing. So when you feel that, it is being felt, though, in a bubble of safety, a sense of safety, an illusion of safety, because what feels familiar will feel safer, even if it isn't fulfilling, even if it is a little life destructive. You know, when we talk about energy, what is really feeling life-giving, what is feeling life-destructive, something I learned from my mentor, Dina Welch, years ago. So if you make this declaration, can you allow for what's about to come next? And when I say what's about to come next, because it is something I have observed and I have helped people through in very different ways. Because when you say you want something, what doesn't align with that, because what you want requires your alignment, right? These bigger things, these more purpose aligned things require your alignment. So what is not aligned will start to get really loud. It will be felt. It will be noticed. And this is where there's an experience of what can feel like an upheaval for many, where things start to get strange. Maybe you start changing a lot, so your tolerance shifts. You're like, the things that I was putting up with before, certain emails, the way that you respond, the sense of urgency, what people expect from you, what's going on in your personal life, you notice your nervous system. It's not that you are walking around fully dysregulated. It's that you're feeling it more because you've said you don't want it. Because you said you don't want it. You want to do something that is more you. So what isn't aligned with the more aligned, elevated version of you is going to feel more foreign, uncomfortable, frustrating, angering. You might notice feelings of resentment and bitterness. You might notice some feelings of fear and anxiety coming up. And it's part of it. It's truly part of it, because what you're going to be looking at are the things that are not going to come along. And I'm talking, here are some examples to make this, not so vague and ambiguous. Let's say then, the version of you that is in your message, out here speaking, teaching, doing the thing, creating the art, working with people the way that you want to work with them, that version of you is very direct and boundaried and has an empress-like presence. When people are around you, they feel like, wow, the air has changed in the room in a good way. They feel like, man, I need to lock in. This person is inspiring. When you're being yourself, let's say that's what you inspire in people, where they feel all of a sudden like aligned to their own drive toward the right things for them. They can see more possibility when you're just being yourself. Now, there are some words that I used. That version of you is boundaried. Now, what does it take to be someone who holds boundaries very naturally? Something I learned a lot from Stacey Jordan Shelton to say is not participating, not reacting to certain ways of adapting to certain situations that you may have done in the past. Now, let me rephrase that because that came out very strangely. Let's say up until this point, or maybe not up until this point, because likely if you're at that point of saying, hey, I'm here to be myself, to do this, to be real, to be bold, you may have already started to like notice this stuff and start to try to shift it. And maybe you've actually tried to do some things to shift it, but it hasn't fully moved for you. There are various reasons because this isn't just a mindset thing. I've talked about that in past episodes. We have to stop treating ourselves as these like separate parts of there's my mindset. It's just all in your head. And then there's the body. And then, there's the action I take. We have to see, feel, know that it's all related. It's all connected and one isn't more important than the other. And instead of trying to just fix it through like, I'm going to fix this through mindset, it is becoming aware of where this way of functioning has been a part of you, has been something that you had to do in certain situations that was adaptive at one point and then became maladaptive. And I'm talking about things like people pleasing, over functioning, over promising, over giving, doing more than you should be doing, taking on other people's work for them, getting frustrated that they're not doing what you told them they could do to get the outcome that they wanted. So you are like, well, okay, I'll do it for you. That will start to become very noticeable. Because again, remember this new version of you who isn't new. This is you all along. This being true to you version of you has boundaries. And someone who's holding these sovereign, very clear, empress-like boundaries isn't feeling any obligation to do anything that violates those boundaries within themselves. No reaction, no sense of urgency. There is an awareness of when something is not for you because you have strong enough boundaries to know so. So here's the problem though. A lot of times we approach this in kind of like a scattered way and we see them as separate and we try to do them as actions alone. So someone might go learn boundary work and then they might learn mindset work around people pleasing. And so they try to say the right things to tell their brain, we're not people pleasing. Different phrases where you try to address why you feel the need to make everybody happy, why you are so afraid of a client being mad at you. You're so afraid of someone in your audience being angry with you. You're so afraid of a past colleague judging you. We try to approach that as a separate thing and then try to be someone with boundaries. Now, what if they're all related? And in order for one to really lock in for us to feel fully aligned with it, we have to see, love, recognize, and know the other side as well. Because it's not a binary thing where this is bad and this is good. It's a recognition of maybe a way that you tried to have a kind of boundary before. And being able to look at, feel, notice, and release this kind of stuff without judgment, because this higher, a more aligned, bold, expressive messenger version of yourself is not walking around judging herself, himself, themselves. Let's just say that. That's part of it. They're not walking around saying, man, I'm so mad I had something from my past, a past way of thinking come up. I'm so mad and I'm feeling angry at myself. No, because the type of boundaries that they have come with this clear sense of I love the crap out of myself. I am very much proud of who I am and that I have the insight and to recognize these things for what they are. But here's the thing. We're trying to sometimes, when we do it in a scattered way, recognize them as though they weren't important to us at some point and that they therefore aren't us. And they're like this thing that we're responsible for getting off of us. Like we are dirty with these ways of acting that are preventing us from being who we want to be. So let's use the people pleasing as an example because I want to try to keep us on one topic here. So people pleasing, what is it? We recognize people pleasing in ourselves or other people when it is someone who is really fixated on everyone being happy. And they make it their responsibility to make sure that's happening. Now, there's a spectrum, though, because sometimes the motivation isn't the same for everybody. Sometimes it is about keeping the peace, and that's survival, right? You may have been in positions where you were the peacekeeper in your home, where you were the peacekeeper between people in your family. You were the one who was tuning into what was going on around you and in other people's emotional state because of how they reacted. So you wanted to anticipate, are they getting worked up? Are they getting upset? So you're the peacekeeper, and that's where what looks like people-pleasing behaviors may be coming from. And so then that gets carried forward into career. You become the peacekeeper of never having an angry client, never having a past colleague upset with you, an employee upset with you, a partner upset with you. And it can be, yes, because you want them to be happy, but because you have learned that there isn't safety when the emotions of others start to get into anything that feels negative, even though that's not universally true for everyone, right? Someone can have a feeling of frustration with you and still love and adore you, but that's not what you felt or observed or was taught. There's that. There are the different factors of your identity and the intersections of your identity and how that will influence how you have been taught to be responsible for certain things, right? If you've been taught because of your gender, you are supposed to be the caregiver, the nurturer, the one who's softer, the one who's more submissive, the one, whatever it is, right? If you grew up in a certain church setting that taught you certain ways to believe, that's going to influence that behavior. That's why this isn't just you have a people-pleasing problem and let's fix it. There's history there. There's context there. There's culture there. So that's also looking at then it has become, or it was a part of you. And that's why we don't want to judge that. We don't want to look at that with harsh judgment. We want to look at it with love, curiosity, and also a goodbye. You've done what you needed to do. I've got it from here. Thank you. And goodbye. That's the vibe here. So one way I like to think of it and practice it is as though I now am the future self, getting to go back and talk to my past self. And what would I really want to say to her, knowing that she's in the experience, that she's going through the thing then? When we do a lot of, sitting at our altar, pulling cards, a lot of times there is this conversation that's happening with our future self, our future most aligned self. That is something that I will say, calling in my future more aligned self, the future version of me aligned with my most fulfilled timeline, yada, yada, yada. And we are the future self for our past self. We have more experience. We have had so many wins that we often take for granted, that we forget because we continue to look forward. And so if I could go back and energetically say to my past self, one, I want to pop into a time where she may be bypassing her own boundaries because that's what feels safe. And I had mentioned that sometimes the people-pleasing looking behavior, the action, might feel like a way to have boundaries. So I know that what she wanted then was to be recognized for her talent, to be recognized for her mind, to be appreciated, to have peace, to have reciprocity in her relationships, to feel met, to feel compensated. And she recognized that there were certain things that were very frustrating to her, like when people wouldn't follow through with something, when people would communicate in very confusing and chaotic ways, when people would not understand her, even though if she looked at what she said and she read it over and over, she couldn't find what was confusing. And so in order to protect her peace, her perception was, it will be easier if I do it, if I take it on, if I do it for them, if I keep taking things on, I'll handle it, was a common phrase that she will say. I'll handle it. I got it. Leave it to me. Or sometimes angry and frustrated. I got it. Leave it alone. I'll take it on, So, however, she is still trying to have a kind of boundary where she feels like this is what I got to do to get to my peace. Because this isn't peaceful for me to be trusting people with things that they aren't caring for in the way that I thought they would care for it, to be asking someone for help with something and then it turns into a very chaotic series of texts and emails where it was like, I don't know how this even got to that point. I thought this was going to be something that was handled in the next like 10, 15 minutes. Let me have it back. I'll take it back, right? And that felt like a boundary in a way. And however she was doing was trying to stay in relationships, trying to stay in situations and hope that through her fixing, through her doing things, through her showing what she could do, showing how she could think through things, that she would eventually get what she wanted, but still get to keep those relationships, that job, that partnership, the things that were part of the disruption to the peace, to feeling recognized, to feeling met, to feeling loved, to feeling cherished, to receiving devotion, the reciprocity that she wanted. So what would I say to her? One is, I see you. I see you over here feeling unseen. And I see you. You're hoping to feel seen. That's what you want. And I get that because I see you, because I am you, right? And I see what you're doing. And I see where it's coming from. It's coming from a place of hope, sometimes desperation, of love, though. You loved the crap out of your people. Man, she loved her people, no matter how she was treated, to be honest. A lot of love was felt in her toward people that didn't always treat her very well, but she hoped they would. She hoped she could help the situation enough by being enough, by doing enough, by showing up enough, by fixing things enough that she would get that appreciation, that she would receive that same love right back. And we're talking, reciprocity in these business relationships at the company where she worked, in the relationship that she was in at the time, in the friendships, in the community, in the environment where she lived. She was holding a lot. She was carrying a lot. So she was in survival mode in a way, but hoping that if she just did enough, it would all work out. But here's the thing that I would have to also say to her that she's going to be really upset about. You're going to have to let a lot of people go, and you're going to have to walk away from one of these situations, a couple of them actually. Now, why would she be upset? Because she was fighting so hard to try and keep those things in her life, those relationships, that job, hoping that her effort would eventually be why it worked. But the more she efforted, the more she forced, the more she pushed out of alignment, the more resistance, the more stress, the more chaos. So yes, I would go back and I would say to her, you're gonna have to walk away. And I see you and I see how upset that makes you because you love these people and you worked hard to be where you are. You worked hard to get into that job. It's a great position on paper, but you're being treated terribly. And they have no plans of meeting you. They have no plans of compensating you. They have no plans of partnership, even when they leverage your name, even when they leverage your creativity, which they're gonna take some stuff from you. They're gonna lie to you about you. They're gonna want you to lie for them. You want peace. So here's that thing. What did past Sarah Lucille want? She wanted peace. She wanted reciprocity. She wanted to be seen. She wanted to receive the same love, devotion, and to get to be her creative self, to get to be seen as the version of herself that is doing the work that she's meant to do in the world in spaces where it's met by other people like her. And so it's like, you want that. You're going to have to be the one who lets go. So that's part of it. That's why when you say, I want to do this thing that's going to be the boldest version of me, the versions of you, the behaviors, the actions, the habits, the tendencies, the reactions that contradict that pull on you like a sack of slime are going to tug you out of alignment over and over and over and over again. So one of the things that will happen is a letting go, is a release. Let things fall away. And this is why I say, this is where the mentorship does come in, or whoever you work with, please let it be with someone who can see this experience and validate it for you. Because sometimes things will be happening and you're like, oh, this doesn't even make sense. And you're going to try and look for the logical explanation. You're going to try and, make sense of it. And someone else might try to also logic it too much and make sense of it, or put you into some framework where like, okay, well, let's do some mindset work around this. But I'm telling you, like the version of you that is trying to be born Phoenix Rising style, so you can speak the way you came here to speak. You can express yourself the way you came here to express yourself. You can receive those wins that are meant for you. It's going to require a shedding. And how that feels is so valid. It doesn't have to be your favorite part of the process at all. But here's what comes after, or not even after. This is done together, I will say. When you're letting go, you're creating the space then to be someone who can receive what fills that space that is more aligned. So we said this more aligned version of you is boundaried, right? But what we have to learn are what boundaries look like for someone like you. What does the boundaried version of you do during the day, do with their day? What kind of decisions do you make? What kind of decisions don't you make? What actions do you take? What actions don't you take? What is yours? What isn't yours? How do you know, and how do you respond when something tries to come along and push past that boundary? How do you respond? How do you feel when you respond? How is your nervous system regulated around that response? So to say like, here's what you have to do to have boundaries, and say this is like step 1 through 10, I wouldn't fit that into everybody. That wouldn't fit into everybody, because how you are going to learn your most boundaried self is going to be very contextual. It is going to be very related to who you have been up until this point, how your life has been experienced by you, your storytelling of that, and how you're going to be moving forward and creating the narrative from here. Showing up, noticing, being observant, believing, knowing, like resting in this knowing that things work out for you, that this is the right path because this is the path you have felt called to. And so when things seem a little weird, you're getting to exercise new muscles around how you respond to the weird, how you respond to the things that used to come along and derail you, until over time, you start to notice it shows up less and less and less, and the people around you start to shift. Even if they're the same people, the way people relate to you, the energy that you feel is around you and in interacting with you starts to shift. Or you start to notice new people showing up, people that you're like, where the heck have you been the whole time? Where have you been? And that's how people will feel about you too. When you're aligning, when you're getting into this big, bold messenger energy, they get to have that feeling of where the heck have you been, right? Because that's the gift of being ourselves. That's the gift of showing the world who we are. So my answer to I want to make my message feel more weird and more me, repel the wrong kind of people and attract the right kind of people. When we say we want to repel the wrong kind of people, are you ready for what that means? Because repelling someone doesn't mean they all go quietly. Doesn't mean they all go without wanting to get in a word in your inbox or in your comment section or to say something about you to other people. So being the boldest version of you who is sovereign and clear, that empress-like emperor version of you, you're unbothered, right? That's the vision, because we can't control other people. And if we are willing to be the version of us that does send other people who aren't aligned with us away, may they go away, and whatever they have to say is none of our business. And being able to let that go. Not having to investigate, not having to defend yourself, not having to react. So when we say we want to repel the wrong kind of people, are you willing to be the version of you that can repel people and do so with unbothered energy? Yes, you can. Absolutely. I know you can. But I'm saying this is why this is energetic work. This isn't just tell me the bold words, ChatGPT, tell me what to say. It's all in how you're holding yourself and how you're going to be now experiencing life and watching life unfold for you in beautiful new ways. So when you say you want to attract the right kind of people, I talk about this in Energy of Your Message. What do we have? The 3 elements of bold messaging: resonance, alignment, coherence, alignment is what we're talking about here. Rather than getting too caught up on who are they, how do I talk to them, how do I speak to what they want, first thing first is actually, are you aligned? Are you aligned with the message? Are you the aligned messenger that they can find and resonate with? Are you holding yourself in a way that you are the right person for them? Because you are the right person for them, but are you letting yourself be that person? Or are you finding yourself falling back into old patterns, old ways of thinking, speaking, acting that attracted the other people who put a lot of pressure on you, put a lot of expectation on you, who wanted you to be someone you're not, who wanted to siphon off of you, who wanted to get as much as they could out of you for as little compensation as possible, who wanted you upset and angry because that made them feel close to you, who looked for conflict because that created a sense of connection. You see? So we want to attract the right people. The word is alignment. Not how do I please them? How do I get them to like me? How do I say all the right words? Because how is that not falling back into those old quote unquote people pleasing actions and ways of thinking and behaving and relating to people? So I'm going to leave it there. This was only question 1. And this is something I get to dive into in a session with someone this week. I'm very excited to do so. I do these Energy of Your Message blueprint sessions. And from there, we work together in Energy of Your Message if it's a good fit. So if you want to book a session first, that is an option. I will put the link in the show notes. And if you feel really resonant with this type of work, with this message, and you're like, I'm ready, I want to do it, then apply for Energy of Your Message, the 6-month mentorship where we work one-on-one together. That is at sarahlucille.com/mentorship. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time.